What up, Saints? Welcome back to A Teacher and a Preacher. Now, this week's study was a big old dose of conviction for me. It may be titled The Endurance of Our Hope, but it deals with something that's probably one of the biggest issues that I know I face, as well as most of the people I know. That issue? An undisciplined tongue.
And there's an old saying that says, it may take 2 years for a baby to learn to talk, but it takes 50 years to learn to be quiet.
Truer words have never been spoken.
That's why there's well over 100 scriptures dedicated to disciplining the tongue. Proverbs 21:23.
Those who guard their mouths and keep their tongue keep themselves from calamity.
Ephesians 4:29.
Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building up others according to their need, that it may benefit those who listen.
James 1:26.
Those who consider themselves religious and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongue deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless.
Now we could go on and on, but let's focus on the advice that Peter gives in his first letter in chapter 3, verses 8 through 17. Finally, all of you, be like-minded, be sympathetic, love one another, be compassionate and humble. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. For whoever would live life and see good days must keep their tongue from evil and their lips from deceitful speech. They must turn from evil and do good. They must seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their prayers. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil.
Here, Peter is making a passionate appeal for faithfulness, consistency, and wholehearted obedience by identifying 6 key ways in which we can walk the talk or live out our faithfulness. The first, unity. As followers of Christ, we should be of one accord. We're all behind computer screens here, so don't be afraid to answer honestly. How many of you have bashed or criticized other denominations or preachers simply because they're not your own? Go ahead, raise your hand.
Yeah, I got you. I got you on camera. You on candid camera now. You ain't know that.
I say this to Amanda all the time. 0 plus 4, 1 plus 3, 2 plus 2. The answer is always 4. It doesn't matter what your method is as long as you get there. So Baptist, Methodist, Catholic, Lutheran, it doesn't matter when the answer is still Jesus. Respect how they got there and understand the answer. Number 2, mutual concern. Paul says in Romans to rejoice with those who rejoice and to weep with those who weep. So share in these same emotions and situations with your fellow brothers and sisters. 3, love. This is pretty self-explanatory, but it should be noted that for Christians, loving one another is the rule, not the exception. Now, I'm going to group these last 3 together because I don't think you can have one without the other 2. 4, 5, and 6 are compassion, humility, and forgiveness. Instead of breaking this down, I would invite you to go back and read the story of the prodigal son. When you do it, instead of focusing on the prodigal son, I want you to instead focus on the behavior of the father and see how he displayed those 3 characteristics. When you make it your mission to live out these 6 characteristics, something happens. Let's read verses 13 and 14 to see what that is.
Who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? Even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Do not fear their threats. Do not be frightened.
Our hope in Christ will carry us through any difficult circumstance or suffering. Now, we may experience times of unjust sufferings because we stand up for what's right. But nonetheless, when our hope is rooted in Christ, enduring through such undeserved suffering can strengthen us to face other difficult times. In fact, we are blessed to be counted among those who suffer for righteousness' sake. This comfort in Christ should serve to encourage and strengthen our hope. Therefore, don't fear the threats of the world or allow issues going on to shake the calmness of your mind. Now here comes the moral of the story. It's out of the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks, right? So what does that mean? This isn't being judgmental. Even Jesus said, you shall know them by their fruits. If you want to really know what's inside a person, just watch what they do, or better yet, listen to what they say.
But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience, so that those who speak maliciously against your good behavior in Christ may be ashamed of their slander. For it is better, if it is God's will, to suffer for doing good than for doing evil.
So let's recap. You now exhibit unity with other believers despite methods. You share in mutual concerns. Your rule is to love everyone. And you show compassion, humility, and forgiveness when others fall short. Once you continuously demonstrate these Christ-like traits, you begin to take on the Christ-like calmness. Now it's your job to show the endurance of this hope. Remember last week when we talked about those scoffers and haters that are quick to call you out for whatever reason? Peter tells us to always be ready to give them an answer should they ask us the question. You ready for it? Here it comes.
Message!
I used to think that part was the moral, so I focused heavily on the apologetics aspect, or the giving of those reasons. It wasn't until recently that the second part of that verse is what really stood out to me as key. Do this with gentleness and respect. Now, I'm a fiery, outspoken, and energetic person, as you can probably tell from just these few videos. So when I defend the faith, or try to explain to people why the answer's 4, I tend to get a bit riled up. What Peter is telling me is, dude, you know the answer's 4. Stop worrying about all the reasons for why it's 4, and instead focus on conducting yourself in such a way that shows you truly believe that's the answer. In my experience, people are too concerned with how I got to 4. If I say I'm a 2 plus 2 man, they ask, why not 1 plus 3? If I say, okay, 1 plus 3 it is, just to keep the peace, they say, oh, so just forget 0 plus 4 then? Point is, you can't please everybody. So just focus on the answer. Focus on Jesus. Live your life in such a way that no matter your method, your answer is and always will be Jesus. And in doing so, those who try to shake you will be left ashamed of their slander.
So what's the challenge for this week?
Well, the challenge for this week is more of a challenge for myself, but as I feel it'll benefit everyone, feel free to do it too. At some point this week, Satan is going to test me and accuse me of something. He will try with all of his might to shake my calmness in Christ. So from this point on, I have made it my mission and challenge to live out those 6 key themes that Peter was talking about. That way, I'll be better equipped to keep my composure at times of testing.
With that, I pray that the Lord guards our mouths and keeps watch over the doors of our lips.
So until next week, this is Amanda and Kobe with a teacher and a preacher. Later, saints.